Hey everyone, this is Sarah from Black Note Transcriptions. Welcome back to our channel. Today we're going to talk about our top 10 tips for transcribing. You might have mixed feelings about transcription. Some musicians love to do it, whereas I think the majority of musicians really don't like it. It's a skill that needs a lot of practice to develop, and it can be very frustrating at first. But first off, what is transcribing? So transcribing is just writing down what you hear in notation. It's also known as dictation. If you've ever heard of doing rhythmic dictation or melodic dictation or harmonic dictation, those are all forms of transcribing. So even though transcribing can be so painful at first, in the end it is so rewarding and it can help strengthen so many of your musical skills. Tip 1. Start at your skill level. Do not make your first transcription ever some crazy jazz solo. If you are a beginner, start simply. Start with a very, very simple melody or even just a simple rhythm. How can you do this? Have a friend play just 3 notes on the piano. Have them tell you what the starting note is. They'll say, okay, the first note is going to be a G. And then have them just play a couple notes. Practice learning how to associate what you're hearing with what's on the page, and then go on from there. If you start at a level that is way too advanced, you're going to get frustrated, you might get upset with yourself, and you're going to quit and not want to do it ever again. So start where you are comfortable. Tip number 2, get the rhythms down first. If you're transcribing a melody and you're really struggling, break it up into chunks. First, transcribe the rhythm, and then transcribe the melody, and then put them together. This can be very helpful if you're struggling because sometimes transcribing rhythm and notes at the same time is very overwhelming and we can get kind of confused, especially if we're just starting out. So separate it into 2 chunks. First do the rhythm, then add the notes. And don't be ashamed of using this trick. All transcribers do this, even when they are transcribing the most advanced, wild, crazy solos and pieces. It's normal, it's helpful, and it will definitely help you get started. Starting simply won't just help you build a nice foundation for your skills, but it'll help you feel more confident and it'll help you enjoy what you're doing. Tip number 3, count while listening. So when you're transcribing, you're more than likely to be transcribing to some sort of audio recording. While you're listening to that recording, try to count the beats out loud with the recording, and that will help you find where the rhythms are falling in each measure. 4, slow it down. It's totally okay to slow down your audio recording in order to really catch everything that's happening. Especially if you're a beginner, this can be so helpful and it can make the whole process less overwhelming. Some people argue that slowing down your recordings is cheating in some way, but honestly, if it makes it easier for you to learn the skills, it's totally fine. Use it as a tool. There are a lot of applications and services out there that you can use to slow down your audio, such as the Amazing Slowdowner or iRehearse Plus, and most DAWs have functions where you can slow down audio as well. Also, YouTube has a slowdown function as well. If you're watching a video, go to the bottom right corner and click on Settings, and you'll see that you can choose from a variety of speeds. This can be really helpful if you're transcribing from YouTube videos. So for whatever tool you need to use, just go ahead and use it. If it helps you and makes you better and more confident, that's great. Keep using it, no shame. Tip number 5, map out the form. When I start a transcription, I like to first listen to the whole piece of music that I need to transcribe, whether it's just a 12-bar jazz solo or a full 4-minute pop song. I will listen to the whole song and really figure out what needs to be done before I write down a single note. So let's take the example of a jazz solo. If I'm transcribing just a 12-measure jazz solo, before I write down a single note or rhythm, I will take my music notation software and I will create 12 bars. I delete all of the extra measures before I do anything else so that I just have the 12 bars on my page. Before I start, I like to distribute my measures evenly so that there are an even number of measures in each line. So if I'm transcribing a 12-measure jazz solo, that means that there are 3 lines with 4 measures in each line. This can be very helpful because now, while I'm listening to this piece of music, I can start to pick up little bits and pieces. Maybe the first and second measure of this solo are absolutely insane. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to skip those for right now because I hear that the 3rd measure is just a whole note. So maybe I will start my transcription by just putting a whole note in measure 3. There, I've done 1 out of 12 measures. That feels so good. I can keep listening and I know, okay, measure 5 is super easy. That's just 4 quarter notes. I'm gonna put those in. All right, I keep listening. Measure 6 is all rests. Great. And awesome, measures 7 through 12 are pretty simple. Great, so I've done almost the whole transcription. Now that I have a better feel for the piece and I've kind of warmed up my transcribing ears a little bit, I'm gonna go back to measures 1 and 2 and tackle those. One of the good reasons to do this is because it can be so overwhelming to come across a really tough passage while you're transcribing. So if you have the whole form mapped out, you can kind of skip over the tough parts if you're not ready to tackle them. Before I started using this trick, I used to just get to a hard part, get overwhelmed, and quit, and not finish the transcription. And if you're a beginner, that definitely will happen to you because transcribing can be very, very frustrating. So map out your form, skip the hard parts if you need to, come back to them when you are ready. Tip number 6, use software that lets you play back your transcription. This is so important. If you are transcribing, and especially if you are a beginner, it's really, really important to be able to hear what you are doing. Now, a lot of transcribers transcribe only by hand and they live by that, and that's amazing. And I have so much respect for that. But if you're a beginner and you're trying to learn this skill, there's no shame in using music notation software. I use Sibelius. I absolutely love it. I use it every single day, and it helps me so much when I'm transcribing. Every note that I enter makes a sound. This is very, very helpful because sometimes we make mistakes. In fact, we make mistakes all the time if you're transcribing. Mistakes are extremely common, so it's very, very good to be able to check your work. If you want to just transcribe by hand and you want to push yourself to do that, that's great too, but always be checking your work on a piano or another instrument of your choice. Tip number 7, use an instrument. Even if you're using software that lets you play back your transcription, still use an instrument while you transcribe if you play an instrument. I personally don't use an instrument while I transcribe because I'm more comfortable doing it by ear, but that's just because I've been practicing it for a while. In the beginning, I loved to sit by the piano and kind of plunk out the notes that I thought I was hearing. That can be a great way to associate what you're hearing with what you're seeing visually and then translating it to the page. If you do play an instrument and you choose to use that instrument while you transcribe, you will find that your ability to play by ear will improve a lot. Tip number 8, sight read and sight sing every day. This is a practice tip that I recommend for every single musician, but I also recommend it for music transcribers. If you're not familiar with sight reading is the art of reading music on a page and reproducing it immediately. So there's not practice involved, you don't get to see the music or figure it out before you play it or sing it. You see the music and then it happens. The ability to sight read can directly correlate to your ability to transcribe. So if your sight reading is weak, you should practice it every single day and you will see improvements both in your sight reading and in your transcribing. So what's the connection? How are transcribing and sight reading linked? Well, sight reading is the ability to see music on the page and to translate it immediately into an audio response. Whereas transcribing is taking audio input and relating it immediately to a visual response. So the more that you can strengthen those relationships between your audio and visual connection of music, the stronger your transcribing and your sight reading skills will become. Since I've taken on transcribing full-time, I don't practice my instrument as much as I used to, but I have found that my sight reading has actually improved even though I'm not really practicing that much. So the more you transcribe and the more you sight read, the better your transcription and sight reading skills will become. Tip number 9, take breaks. As I've said before, transcribing can be exhausting. It can be frustrating. It can be so overwhelming. So take breaks. You will start making a lot of mistakes if you get mentally exhausted, and mental exhaustion happens very quickly with transcribing. Transcribing can be mentally exhausting, and when you're that tired, it's so easy to make mistakes. So if you get frustrated, if you're finding yourself getting overwhelmed and overworked, just take a break. If you take time away from your project, you might find that when you come back to it with fresh eyes and fresh ears, that it's much easier and much less frustrating than it was before. Tip number 10, do it every single day. If you want to be great at transcribing, you have to do it every single day. Committed and consistent practice is the only thing that will help you improve. And if you do it every single day, it will get easier, it will get more fun, and you will see so many improvements in your musicality. And remember, we are always here to help. So if you're brand new, if you're just getting started and you're so frustrated, leave us a comment, write us an email, give us a call. We would love to help you out and help you get through that beginning stage. Thank you so much for watching. Please leave a comment in the comments below if you have any other tips or suggestions for your fellow transcribers. And please remember to subscribe to our channel if you have not already, and you can click the little notification bell if you want to receive notifications on everything we post. If you want to check out more of our content or learn about our premium services, you can visit us online at blacknotetranscriptions.com.